Today's video is actually 3 recipes that I made over the past week. I made one for breakfast, one for lunch, and one for dinner. All of them are low carb, and all of them are pretty amazing, whether or not you're watching your carb intake. All 3 recipes are a combination of both freeze-dried ingredients and fresh ones. That's the way I typically cook. If you're looking for exclusively freeze-dried food recipes, I'll talk about how you can substitute those things in here as well. Today, I'm showing you recipes for meatloaf, chicken taco soup, and a French omelette. I'll talk you through how you can incorporate freeze-dried ingredients as you make these everyday meals. I use a lot of freeze-dried vegetables when I cook, and I find that they are wonderful in terms of both flavor and nutrition. And a lot of times, I'm just cooking for 2 or 3 of us these days, so it helps me eliminate food waste, and that's always appreciated. Well, hi there, everyone. My name is Kareth. I'm a wife, a mom, an author, and a cook. On this channel, I like to create recipes using freeze-dried food. Sometimes it's completely shelf-stable, like a meal or a mix in a jar. Other times, I combine freeze-dried with fresh, but all the time, it's delicious. I'm here to help people who have freeze-dried food on their shelves to know how to cook with it. I test out recipes so you don't have to. Welcome to the Freeze-Dried Foodie. Well, all right, y'all, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to start with meatloaf. Now, I have a recipe on my channel already for a completely shelf-stable meatloaf. It's a meal in a jar meatloaf. I make it with our ground beef. It is possible to make meatloaf with 100% shelf-stable ingredients, and I'll link to that below, that recipe. But today, I'm going to be using some fresh ground turkey. Now, you could use ground beef here or whatever kind of ground meat you want to use. I love the ground turkey in here. I think it gives great flavor. And then I'm going to be combining it with several freeze-dried ingredients. And what I'll do is I'll write the full recipe for this down below in the description box. All right, whenever you're ready to start, you'll need a couple of things. Get out a large bowl for your meat mixture, and then get out your blender. And this is one of my favorite tricks for using freeze-dried ingredients in a fresh meatloaf, okay? You blend them. And the reason you want to do that is because you want to get them as small as possible so that you don't have to have a long refresh time. I find it's easiest to do that by putting them in the blender, pulsing it a few times, and then getting them really nice and small. Some powders, some small pieces, that's what you're going for. Now you can use whatever freeze-dried ingredients you want. I've got zucchini, mushrooms, red bell peppers. I've got some pepper jack cheese I put in there. Hopefully you can see the size of the ingredients after you have pulsed it a few times in the blender, and that's what you're looking for. All right, now you can season up your meat mixture with whatever seasonings you like. I like a little onion powder, some garlic powder. I like salt and pepper. You could use Italian seasonings or parsley, whatever you like in there. I do like to add a little bit of minced garlic, or jarlic, I like to call it. And Worcestershire sauce is great in here. Also, just a squirt of some yellow mustard. And since we are doing low carb, I'm using a sugar-free ketchup here, but if you're not low carb, you can just use regular ketchup. You could also substitute barbecue sauce if you prefer the flavor of a barbecue cheeseburger meatloaf kind of thing. All right, now I added a couple kinds of onions, and I am adding just 1 egg. That was the freeze-dried scrambled egg mixture that I put in there, and I just added a little bit of extra water to it is how I did that. Just a little bit extra. All right, give that a mix. In goes those freeze-dried blended vegetables. In goes some sort of filler. Now, since we're low carb, I added pork panko, but you could add breadcrumbs, quick cook oats, saltine crackers, like whatever you want to use as your filler. And I decided I would add a little bit of extra cheese. I had some freshly grated Colby Jack in the fridge, and I just put whatever was left in that bag, which was, I'm guessing about 2/3 of a cup. And this is the texture you're looking for in your meatloaf. You want it to be moldable or shapeable. You want to be able to make it into a mound, okay? That's the texture you're looking for. If you need to add some extra filler, like if it's too liquidy, then just add a little extra filler. If you need it to be a little bit more moist, then add some more heavy cream, or you could substitute a chicken broth, a beef broth, or just water. All right, now since I want to do the mini muffins, I went ahead and sprayed a muffin tin, and then I used 1/4 of a cup measuring cup to portion that out. I flattened the tops a little bit, and once again, I'm topping these with some sugar-free ketchup because that's a low-carb ketchup. You can use regular ketchup or barbecue sauce here. You'll need to bake that at 375 for about half an hour. And you want it really nice and bubbly on the outside when you pull it out. You want to know that there's some crust that has formed. The crust is so good on these mini meatloaves. You might run a knife around the edge just to make sure they come out, but if you've sprayed it and it's in a nonstick muffin tin, they should come out pretty good. And then you could serve this up. This is really good with mashed potatoes, y'all. But since we're low carb, I went ahead and served it with a side salad. The meatloaf is fantastic. Oh my goodness. It's moist. That crust around the outside is so nice. It's full of flavor. And using those freeze-dried vegetables is ideal in here. Like I said, you could choose whatever vegetables you want to put in here, but since we're doing the low carb, I chose low carb vegetables. I highly recommend this recipe, especially if you're low carb. Oh, and I have an update. For those of you who have been with me since the Thrivalist days, a lot of you have used my shopping link to purchase freeze-dried food from either Wise Harvest or Thrivalist. First of all, thank you. That certainly helps. I get a little commission on that, and it helps to replace the income I lost when Thrive Life shut its doors. Exciting things are happening at both companies. Listen to this. They have each brought over executives from our beloved Thrive Life, and they are both expanding their offerings. Thrivalist has just launched a new line of freeze-dried meats. It's under their Ready Harvest brand, and they are supposed to be just like the Thrive Life meats. They've got chicken dices, ground beef, and sausage crumbles. This is exciting news. Woohoo, that's so awesome. Okay, now, Wise Harvest, who also has brought over Thrive Life execs, they are having a big 30% off sale on both of their large 8-ounce pouches and the smaller 1-ounce pouches. I think they're getting ready to launch some new products, so that's exciting. So if you want to grab some of those lemon slices I'm so in love with, the sale starts today and it goes through the end of the month. I'll include both of my links below. All right, moving on. I'm going to show y'all how to make a French-style omelet using freeze-dried eggs and freeze-dried veggies. If you don't want to use freeze-dried eggs, you can totally use fresh eggs. I am using the freeze-dried because that's how I prefer to make a French-style omelet. You can make an American-style omelet, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And the difference there is the cooking temperature and how long it takes to make the omelet. And I learned all of this from Jacques Pepin on YouTube, the French chef, and I just adore him. I think he's wonderful. What you'll want to do if you're using freeze-dried vegetables in your omelet is you'll want to start by making the egg mixture. And a traditional French-style omelet is going to have 3 eggs. So for me, that is 6 tablespoons of eggs and 9 tablespoons of water. And so you'll just give this a good mix. If you'll notice, when using the scrambled egg mix, it doesn't take much mixing to get it completely incorporated. And now you just have this really nice, smooth egg mixture. If you're using fresh eggs, you're going to need to whisk that for about a minute, at least a minute. And the reason is you need to break those protein strands. The difference in an egg that has been completely whisked for about a minute and one that hasn't been is dramatic. I've made enough to know this. It's crazy the difference that a minute of whisking will make in a French style omelet. That's what you want to do. All right, now choose whatever freeze-dried veg you want in your omelet. You could make, mushroom and spinach or kale or asparagus, or there's like so many freeze-dried veggies that you could choose from. Today, I chose some green onions, red bell peppers, and some spinach. And you'd be surprised at how much spinach is in those little bitty chunks of spinach that come out of that can. It's very concentrated. You don't need a lot of those. All right, so get your freeze-dried ingredients hydrating in the egg and then turn on your heat. So for a French style omelet, you can heat up your pan on medium. But once your butter has melted, that's 2 tablespoons of butter, you need to crank down the heat and turn it down to a medium-low. And as soon as you put that mixture in your pan, you need to start stirring. And really, the technique here is you basically take this and treat it like a scramble. See how I'm smushing those chunks of spinach and breaking apart those pieces? You definitely want to do that just to make sure that there are no chunks of spinach in your end product. What you do is you scramble and smush those pieces of egg, and then you just need to do a lot of stirring. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And lift it up off the stove if it's getting too hot and cooking too quickly. Lift it off and then put it back down. Lift it up, put it back down. I do a lot of that. You need to take this to about 2/3 of the way cooked. And the camera's really not doing a great job of showing it. There really is quite a bit of liquid left here, and it looks like I've taken these too far, but it's actually just right. So once it gets to the point where it's like mostly cooked, but not all the way cooked, instead of smushing, you need to start shaping, okay? So you shape this into a circle, and you're gonna need a nonstick skillet. I've got a new skillet here. It's a ceramic skillet. And so you shape this into a circle. You'll have to have a spatula to really get underneath that. But once you get that shaped, and my temperature, again, it's like at a 3.5 out of 10. I'm at a medium-low. You're going to let that go for about a minute or so, and then you can add your cheese and your meat. Now, I've got Colby Jack and some, I think that's deli meat. So you just let that start to heat up, and that cheese is going to start to melt. You let that go for probably a minute or so. And then as your cheese is really starting to melt and your meat is heating up, that's when you will start to shape your omelet. Roll it into thirds. And this was like so difficult for me to get on the camera, y'all. I showed you like that first turn, but what I would typically do is just tilt the skillet. And I didn't, because I knew the camera couldn't catch it, and it broke. But let me tell you, it doesn't matter, because it's going to taste amazing. So once you roll it, 1-2 rolls, and it's all rolled up, then you can let it sit on the heat for maybe 30 seconds or so. And that cheese on the inside is going to be melting. And a French style omelet has no browning on the outside whatsoever. It's very blonde. Very pale. Okay, and that's what you want. So you can slide that out and put it on your plate. And then if you are going to be really overly French, you'll get a pat of butter and coat the outside of your omelet in butter. And then just some chives. That's all you need, y'all. It's simple. And let me tell you what, it's one of the most delicious things you'll ever put in your mouth. If you like a soft scrambled egg, and if you like things on the moist side, you're going to love this style of omelet because it's not overcooked. An American style omelet, you can do the same basic procedure, but you can leave your heat up at probably a medium, and you're going to get some browning on the outside of your omelet. And that's just kind of the difference. If you're in a hurry, don't make a French style omelet. If you're not in a hurry and you like a soft scramble, then maybe try this and see what you think. French style omelets are my favorite type of omelet. My husband and I got to go to Paris. Oh goodness, it's been like 7 years ago. But anyway, we got to go to Paris because he was working and I just tagged along. And I had some of the most fantastic omelets of my life in Paris. And all of them were very simple. They had few ingredients, like fewer than this actually. They just were really eggs, some salt, and then the chives. Oh, and butter. Yeah, how could I forget that? They put lots and lots of butter in their omelets. But y'all, this is delicious food, and freeze-dried ingredients are ideal in a French-style omelet. So I wanted to show you just how tender these eggs are and how wonderful the filling is. It really does get nice and melted. It's perfect. I love the flavor of the freeze-dried ingredients in this omelet. The red bell peppers are nice and sweet. And then if you're a fan of spinach or a fan of green onions, they just taste like regular spinach and regular green onions in here. There's nothing about these vegetables that would make you think, oh, they must have been freeze-dried at some point. No, it just tastes like regular food, which is what I love about freeze-dried ingredients. So this is a great thing to make with your freeze-dried foods. If you're starting to go through your food stores and use up the things that you have, omelets are really great for freeze-dried ingredients. I wanted to show you also just the underside of this French-style omelet and see how blonde it is, like how pale it is. That is what you're looking for whenever you make a French omelet. You want to have low heat and slow cooking. And see just how soft and fluffy those eggs are. And remember, I didn't put any kind of cream in there. There's no half and half. It's just the eggs themselves. And freeze-dried, the scrambled egg mix that I use, those are so good in an omelet. And it does take less time. It's less effort involved than if you're using fresh. All right, moving on. Let's go to our last recipe, which is a chicken taco soup. Now, this recipe, I'm going to be using some rotisserie chicken and some freeze-dried veg and cheese, but it is very similar to, it's kind of a cross between two of my recipes that are for meals in jars from my cookbook. Okay, it's a cross between a chicken tortilla soup and a beef taco soup. So it's really similar to both of those. Of course, today I'm using the rotisserie chicken. I'm going to be using some Rotel tomatoes as well. But if I'm not doing this from a meal in a jar, like if I'm just making this on the stovetop, what I like to do first is to get some olive oil in the bottom of my soup pot. And then I like to add the seasonings directly to that olive oil. And you'll be surprised at what a difference it makes if you get a little bit of heat and a little bit of fat combined with your seasonings first. And if you get that going, it's just amazing the difference in flavor. It really is. It wakes up those seasonings. A lot of those seasonings are fat soluble. So if you put a little olive oil in there and some heat, it's going to really intensify the flavors. I just think it's worth it. It's a little bit of an extra step, but gosh, I think the flavor payoff is worth it. And I'm going to go ahead and add some freeze-dried veg in here. I've got 2 kinds of bell peppers. I've got green chili peppers. I've got chopped onions, and here's some freeze-dried garlic. So yeah, all of that is going to go down into the pot. It's on medium heat at this point, so it's heating up. And all you have to do is like a really quick, I call it a dry saute. So you're stirring these seasonings and these ingredients around in that oil, and the heat is on just a medium, and you're just letting it toast for maybe 1 minute. That's all you need. And then you're going to go ahead and add something with liquid. And since I'm using a can of Rotel tomatoes, that has about probably half a cup or so of liquid in there, and I went ahead and added it. If you don't add something with liquid pretty quickly, then your garlic especially is going to burn. Your onions are going to burn too. So go ahead and add something with liquid. I've used the Rotel tomatoes. I think that's the fire roasted Rotel with the green chilies there. You could just use freeze-dried tomatoes here if you don't have a can of Rotel, but do add just a bit of water in there so nothing's burning. All right, so that came up to a little bubble, and I went ahead and added 6 or 7 cups of water. I think I was at probably 6.5 cups. I just gave everything a stir, and I wanted to add some black beans here, but again, I'm doing low carb and I didn't want to add too many carbs, so I added just the last of my can. That was probably 1/4 cup of black beans. Also, I wanted to add some pepper jack cheese, and I like to blend mine just because I put it in the blender, like a little blender cup, and I pulse it just because I know it's going to melt really easily. So you can skip that step. You don't have to do that, but I like to do it. And then you'll want to bring this up to a boil. And I think I had it on medium high as I brought it up to a boil. Then I turned it down a bit to a medium low, and it needs to simmer for probably 15 to 20 minutes. It takes longer if you use the instant freeze-dried beans than it would if you were just using like a can of black beans. I think the instant beans from Thrivalist take about 20 minutes or so before they're tender. All right, and at that point, after about 20 minutes of bubbling, then I added some creamy things. I added some sour cream, I added some cream cheese, and I added some heavy cream. And that right there, my friends, is gonna make this soup be absolutely irresistible. It's so good. Those creamy things are so good when mixed with the tomato and the spices of the taco soup. Oh my goodness, it's so, so good. Be sure to give it a taste, and you want to adjust and get it to where you want it to be. I added just a pinch of salt. And now it's time for that rotisserie chicken. And you just have to cook that for another like 5 minutes or so, just so it's heated through. If you don't want to use rotisserie chicken and you want to use freeze-dried chicken, you can totally do that. I would just add it whenever I added the liquid. And you don't even have to add more liquid. It should be plenty of liquid to refresh the chicken. Well, all right, now it's ready to serve up. So what we like to serve this with is avocado slices, a little bit more sour cream, some freshly grated cheddar or jack, and a little bit of cilantro. And y'all, this is just so perfect. It's very similar in flavor to my chicken tortilla soup. There's just no tortillas involved. And I also eliminated the cheese sauce mix because it's higher in carbs than I wanted to do. So I have eliminated that, and the corn is gone. Sadly, yeah, too many carbs there. I think it's a good soup, whether or not it has carbs. If you're not counting your carbs, it's very good over some tortilla chips or with some of those tortilla strips on the top. That is really, really good. But yeah, we're watching our carbs, so no chips for us. I think it's delicious without it. It's a little bit spicy, but not too spicy. It's creamy, it's cheesy, it's really filling. My husband does not often request soups, but he requests this one. Well, all right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me today and watching as I combined freeze-dried with fresh. I hope these recipes give you some ideas, some inspiration of how to use your freeze-dried ingredients in everyday cooking. I find freeze-dried to be so convenient. It helps reduce our food waste. And be sure to check out my shopping links below if you are interested in that sale from Wise Harvest or in the new meats from Ready Harvest with Thrivalist. I'll include those links below. And also, for those of you who are interested in my cookbooks for the meals in jars, I've got a Kindle version of book 1 and a Kindle version of my soups cookbooklet. Those are available on Amazon, and I'll link to that below. All right, y'all, I have a verse of the day for you. It's from Colossians 3, verse 12, and it says, "Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience." All right, y'all. Well, I hope you have a blessed week, a wonderful day, and until next time, y'all take care and keep thriving.